Yo, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Oscars nominations. Thursday morning, January 22nd, here on Earth in the year 2026. Just in case anyone finds this in a time capsule, I am John Rocha here for the John Rocha channel on The Truth, a special episode of The Truth. Gonna get into the Oscar nominations that happened this morning. A lot of conversation already happening online and on social media about what happened here this morning. A lot of great surprises, a lot of people claiming surprises that I'm not surprised by, a couple of snubs I am surprised by, but overall, I think this is an interesting list that is full of a lot of things to talk about. Now, we're going to actually talk about it a little bit on the hot mic, but Jeff said he feels like he's going to be talked out by the time we get to our show. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go live and talk about it myself then, in case we don't have enough time to get all of my thoughts out tonight, later on in the Hot Mic Live at 4 p.m. PT today. So I'm very happy for anyone who's joining me live right now. If you want to give me your thoughts on the nominees and as we go through the nominations, please feel free to send in a Streamlabs or a super chat, which is going to be pinned in the chat in just a second here, because I want to hear what you all think. You know, you guys watch my channel, you see our reviews, you see our reactions. I always love to hear what you all think, because listen, yeah, we're all critics and we're in groups and all of that stuff, and it's nice and it's fun and you work hard to achieve getting into those groups, but it doesn't mean that people like you all who just go to the movies and enjoy movies and don't do this for a living don't also have a voice in the whole process. And so I always love to hear from you guys. I haven't had any breakfast. I just rolled out of bed at 7:30, got a bug up my ass, and I'm doing this live. So I've got my trusty drink. I've got some extra water in case I get even thirstier. And I'm here to have fun talking about all this stuff. So let me pin this in the chat real quick to see if anyone wants to send in Streamlabs and super chats to give me their thoughts on their stuff. But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me to talk about this. So let's get into it. I don't know who else is going live. Are other people going live right now? I don't know. I didn't check anybody's schedules. I just felt like going live to this morning. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to share the nominees and we're going to get into all this stuff. And yes, we should definitely lead with this, Clarissa. Sinners officially broke the record for nominations for a movie. I can hear Jeff screaming already later on at 4 p.m. PT about it, but 16 nominations for Sinners. So, you know, it felt like one battle after another was a pretty much a shoo-in in this situation to win Best Picture. But now, in my mind, if a film like this gets 16 nominations, that's got to throw the possibility of one battle after another winning Best Picture as a shoo-in. That's got to make it much more shakier of a proposition than it initially was, or a lot of us felt like it was, you know? So this is a fascinating thing to think about. Will Sinners be the film that surprises everybody, takes this year in an interesting year for movies? So I think everything is on the table now with 16 nominations, and we're going to go through all these nominations and break them down. Now, it's still very possible that one battle after another wins Best Picture, of course, but 16 nominations now puts a little more doubt into the people's mind. Because remember, these critics organizations are very limited in the amount of people that can vote for them, right? Like hundreds or in the maybe 1,000, 2,000 people, right? The Oscars is 10,000 plus, you know? And so that's a lot of people that can come in and go like, well, you know what? I know everyone says one battle, but I like Sinners. I really enjoyed Sinners. I've rewatched it over and over again, and I get more out of that. Plus, you can't ignore the fact that although Sinners is, you could argue, you know, a commentary on racism, commentary on the historical racism of this country, one battle after another is a much more topical take on the authoritarianism that is going on in the world and at times in our country. So the conversation becomes, well, do the voters want to go that route, or do the voters not want to go that route? You know, because I mean, that Iranian film that we're going to talk about a little bit, getting snubbed, like that was all about authoritarianism, and it got almost nothing in the, I think nothing in the nominations. And that's a surprise. That was a bit of a surprise. I thought just to give a little tease on some of the surprises and some of the snubs and stuff that I'm going to be talking about here on the channel. But all right, so let's bring this stuff up here and go through it. And thank you to Sean Brennan, who's starting out already. Sean, hello. Says, so happy for Delroy Lindo. I thought his performance was transcendent. What do you think his chances are to win? Well, let's put a pin in that, Sean. I agree with you. We don't want to bury the lead and talk about stuff ahead of time, but I appreciate the super chat. Please, people, send in your Streamlabs super chats as we go along. But I'm going to bring up the list, and we're going to go through the list. We're not going to go through all the categories, but we're going to go through some of the major categories and give you my feelings and thoughts on it all. Also, for those of you who are wondering if I've done a reaction to He-Man, not yet. That will be afterwards, and I'm sure the Darth Maul trailer will drop later as well. So I will have reaction videos to those trailers coming up probably right after I finish recording this live and grab some breakfast and come on back to the studio. But let's share the screen here, and let's look at the nominations for the Oscars here. And let me take my graphic down. So it's, can I? Okay, I think it work with that. Can I? Yeah, I think it can work with, no, I should probably take that down a little bit. Yeah, let's go with there. Does that work? I kind of feel like I want to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to need to work on this for next time, right? I want to be a little bit bigger, but I want the screen to be bigger as well. But anyway, I'll make it bigger on my end of things. So let's see here, view, zoom in. There we go. I think that should be one more, maybe. Okay, there we go. Let me take the video down. I don't want to get a strike. All right, so this is from the Wrap, Bright Morning for the Sinners. It racked up 16 Oscar nominations, easily beating the 14 originally set by All About Eve with Bette Davis, and Titanic and La La Land, two recent films over the last 30 to 40 years. A lot of people thought it might get 15. Yeah, they mentioned Steve Pond, but I know over at Variety, Clayton felt that it was going to get 15 as well, but it blew that away by getting 16. And a lot of people did not anticipate the Delroy Lindo nomination, which is why that got to 16. Second place was Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. And then you've got Chase Infinity was snubbed, however, and Kate Hudson, we'll see that in a second. Tied for third place, there's the nominations Frankenstein, Marty Supreme, and Sentimental Value, which all also got Best Picture nominations as well. Also for the history books, all four acting categories have a nominee from an international feature, which is the first time that's ever happened in the Oscars. And the co-stars Renate Reinsve and Il's daughter Lilias are the first actors to be nominated for a film in Norwegian. Liv Ullmann received 2 nominations in the 1970s, but both films were for Swedish. And Wagner Moura is the first Brazilian to be nominated for lead actor. Hamlet finished the morning in 4th place, scooping up 8 nominations. And Chloe Zhao was nominated, who is now the second woman to be nominated twice in the category of Best Director after Jane Campion. We saw her get nominated for The Power of the Dog recently as well. And yeah, let's go through them now. All right, nominees for Best Picture: Begonia, F1, which I'm going to say right now, I'm so happy to see. Very surprised it made it. I think that was possibly going to be another film, which I'm going to mention in a second. Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. Look, I love these list of nominations. I think it's a nice variety. Begonia, a lot of people have come on to the Begonia train recently, especially as it's been streaming online. I think it's on Peacock. And people have discovered that movie and really enjoyed it, so I'm not surprised that it had made the list. F1 is a massive surprise for me because I think the film is great, but it's very like a populist film. But, clearly there are a lot of Academy members. I think so. The LA Times wrote it. There's a lot of meat eaters, older meat eaters in the voters, and they wanted something that kind of reflected them. And I think F1 does. So I think that's great. Very happy to see Frankenstein get nominated. It's one of my favorite films of last year. Hamnet is I think it is my number 1 film last year, maybe number 2. I'm not sure yet. Marty Supreme in here, I'm very happy about. That's in my top 3. One Battle After Another, my top 3 as well. Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, Train. All of these are really good nominations. And so I'm very happy about the nominees here. But the snub has to be Wicked for Good, right? And Avatar Fire and Ash. These are 2 films that a lot of people thought were shoo-ins for Best Picture, probably would have gotten the F1 slot if either one of them had been received critically positively by both the critics and the audience. There's a reason the box office for Wicked for Good was not good. There's a reason the box office for Avatar Fire and Ash underperformed. I say a failure. Other people say disappointment. Potato. Either way, they're not happy with the numbers. that came on for Avatar, or that they got for Avatar Fire and Ash. And I think those affected the abilities for those films to get nominated for Best Picture. And I think F1 universally praised, universally liked, and I think that took the slot. But I guarantee you that Wicked for Good or Avatar Fire and Ash, if they had been damn good movies, would have taken that slot. F1 would have been kicked out of the conversation, but that is the situation there. So no surprise on this. My prediction is still one battle after another, but where I had given it pretty much, 100%, now I think it's a little shakier, as I said, with Sinners coming on with 16 nominations. Do not be surprised if we have a Moonlight La La Land situation. And by that, I mean that people think it's going to be La La Land, and then it was Moonlight in a massive surprise, and we saw the drama that happened there. This could be the same thing here. Everyone thinks it's one battle after another, but Sinners comes in and snatches it out from the hands of one battle after another. As I said, it's a political film. It's a topical film, and the Academy may not want to go down that route. Some of the voters may not want to court that controversy. Maybe some of the voters who felt the need to vote a certain way in years past to be more liberal and progressive, maybe they feel like they don't have to go there. Now, I know Sinners is not necessarily like this white-led movie, but there's a little bit of a familiarity with a conversation about racism that we've seen other films win Best Picture for in the past with the Oscars. I think Van Lathan, in his breakdown, if you guys watch him, he said, like, if Sinners had been about slavery, that film would have won a Best Picture, or have been a shoe-in to win Best Picture. Well, maybe it is. Maybe now it is. It has moved into a position where it could actually vie for the title. But I don't know. The Academy is crazy. Remember Shakespeare in Love, one of my favorite films ever, beating Saving Private Ryan, which I agree with, by the way. I think Saving Private Ryan, after the first 30 minutes, it doesn't live up to the promise of the first 30 minutes as strongly, and I think that hurt the film in the end, whereas Shakespeare in Love, I think, consistently is a fantastic film. Recently rewatched it, loved it. Hamnet could come in here and pull the surprise as well. I think those are the three films, although I'd love Marty Supreme to get some consideration. I think there's a middle 10 minutes with Marty, with the dog and the stuff with Abel Ferreira, that I think throws the film off, keeping it from being a Best Picture winner. But, I think that's the situation there. I think it's Hamnet, Sinners, or one battle, but I give it one battle with the highest percentage. Sinners slightly higher now than it was before, and then Hamnet right after that. So we'll see what happens with that. Directing Paul Thomas Anderson, one battle after another. Ryan Coogler, Sinners. Josh Safdie, Marty Supreme. Joaquin Trier, Sentimental Value. Chloe Zhao for Hamnet. So listen, I got no complaints on these 5 nominations, but I will say to you, someone who was snubbed, Guillermo del Toro was snubbed for Frankenstein, which is heartbreaking for me because I love Guillermo and I thought he directed the hell out of the movie. I would argue that's the best film he has directed in quite some time, including The Shape of Water. I like Frankenstein more than The Shape of Water. I like what he did with Frankenstein more than The Shape of Water, and I think he deserved to be nominated. And I'm going to bang my drum again that we need to increase the nominees in certain categories because there are so many films coming out. And especially if the Academy is going to start expanding to include more and more films that are global and international, as we've seen with some of the nominations this year, including Joaquin Trier being nominated for Sentimental Value, then you need to increase the number of nominees for these categories. It's getting a bit ridiculous to have these great artists being snubbed just because people are pig-headed and stubborn about there should only be certain only certain numbers. No, it should be go up to 10 or maybe 8, expand to 8. I think that's only fair. And if you can't make the cut at 8 or 10, it sucks, but I think 8 or 10 allows it to be more fair because we're getting more films being in consideration for these nominations. And I think it's ridiculous to not mirror that by increasing the amount of films, increasing the amount of nominees in certain categories, not every category, but in certain categories. I think director certainly qualifies. I think PTA, again, I'll say the same thing. I think PTA was a shoe-in to win this thing. Now I don't know. Ryan Coogler could absolutely slide in and take this Oscar from Paul Thomas Anderson's hands and win Best Director. It is very possible right now that he could come in and take this thing. It would be a massive shock, I think, to a lot of people, but I wouldn't rule this out. I don't think Chloe Zhao has necessarily the same shot that Hamnet might have in the Best Picture category, but I think it's great that she got nominated. I think it's great that Joaquin got nominated, and I love that Safdie got nominated. Boy, I'd love to be at the next family gathering for the Safdie brothers when he just kind of waves that nomination in his Smashing Machine Brothers face there. So yeah, that's the nominations. I do think, as I said, Del Toro should have been nominated for it. Is there anyone else? I mean, yeah, I thought Train Dreams is beautiful. I think if you increased that to 8, you include him as well, the director of Train Dreams, in all of this. I don't know about Yorgos for Begonia, maybe Kaczynski for F1 because this is pretty amazing. And even though Avatar Fire and Ash wasn't the best installment of the Avatar series, I would argue Cameron directed the F out of that movie. You could make a case for that, you know? And what's really sad here is John M. Chu is not in these list of nominees because I think people were waiting for the second movie to drop to nominate him. Listen, this was going to be a coronation for Wicked. If the second movie had come out, had been amazing, I think that would have been odds-on favorite to win Best Picture, and I think John M. Chu would have been the odds-on favorite to win Best Director because the combination of both those films would have been amazing for John M. Chu. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and now John M. Chu doesn't even get nominated It was nominated last year and really doesn't even get nominated this year. And so all that effort to make those two movies, and I think the people who love them, he can hold on to that, but there is no love from the Academy for this situation. I think that's a shame on so many levels for John M. Chu, but hey, it shows. And it shows it's a fault on both sides. One, he didn't make a good second movie, in my opinion. But the other side of it is I really am sick and tired of the Academy being like, well, we're going to wait till they finish their run and then we're going to award them. It started with the Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings shit, and it continues on. They was like, well, that's only part one. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. If it's an amazing part one, it should get nominated and possibly win. And you don't have to wait for part two to award it as kind of almost like a pseudo lifetime or pseudo good job for making these movies type of award. That should not be the case in this situation, but that's human nature. So, all right, let's look at actor in a leading role. I'm gonna make these a little bit bigger so they kind of we zoom in on the nominations here. Let's see. Let's go down here. Actor in a leading role. Okay. Timothy Chalamet for Marty Supreme. No surprise there. DiCaprio for One Battle After Another. Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon. Michael B. Jordan for Sinners. And Wagner Moura for Secret Agent. That's pretty much how we anticipated this whole thing going. No real surprises on my side. Ethan Hawke has been this quiet, like dark horse through the whole thing, and so no surprise he got nominated. Love that Michael B got nominated. Love that Wagner Moura got nominated. I wasn't sure if the Academy was going to go down that road and see the Secret Agent. Enough people see the Secret Agent to award his performance, and so there you go. I think that's a fantastic situation. I think it still is Chalamet's to win. I don't think the Sinners love is going to stretch to Michael B. Jordan winning the Best Actor. I do think it's pretty much Chalamet's to win with Marty Supreme. I think the closest competitor is probably DiCaprio for One Battle, but I think in the end, Chalamet is going to take this one. Not too many surprises on that one. I think that is a shoe-in when it comes to categories. But I do like the fact that they, a lot of people were saying maybe Jesse Plemons will get nominated for Begonia, but that did not end up happening as a surprise in this category. These are just 5 very strong actors, and I like the diversity here. You have Wagner Moura, who's Brazilian. You have Michael B. Jordan, who's Black. Ethan Hawke is a veteran now of the game. DiCaprio, a veteran and a star. And then Chalamet, an up-and-coming guy who's establishing himself with every performance stronger and stronger in the public consciousness overall. So let's move on to actress in a leading role. Wait, let me take a sip here. Jessie Buckley for Hamlet, no surprise there. Rose Byrne, also not a surprise for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Remember, she won the Golden Globe the other day for the comedy category. Kate Hudson for Song Sung Blue. That's the surprise. I know there had been a build for Kate's performance in the movie, which is a good movie. Not a great movie. It was a good movie. There had been that build for Kate for Song Sung Blue, and boom, it has happened. Now she got the nomination, which I think is great for her. She's been out campaigning for this thing. She was in her mom, Goldie Hawn. They had a great conversation recently. I think it was at a SAG Q&A or one of these Q&As. Very fun to listen. And it's like, 25 years since her first nomination? Because remember, I think she got nominated for Almost Famous. So getting a nomination for Song Sung Blue, I think is great for her. Renata Rensby got nominated for Sentimental Value, and Emma Stone for Begonia. No surprise. Emma Stone is an Academy favorite. People, they just love Emma. And if Emma does important movies, more often than not, she gets, or how can artistic movies, more often than not, she gets nominated, so no surprise. Chase Infinity is the snub here. For me personally, I don't think it's that snub. They should have never campaigned her for best supporting, best actress. She is in the movie for 30 minutes. Now I know some people are like, well, Anthony Hopkins is in the movie for 9 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever it is, and all of that. But I do think she is not the lead of that movie. It is very much DiCaprio's movie. And then you have a bunch of supporting actors as part of the movie, including Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Chase Infinity, Tiana Taylor. Like, there's so many. So to me, to think that she was the lead actress of that movie when she comes in so late in the film just doesn't make sense in my mind. It never made sense in my mind. And I'm glad the Academy agrees with me, because I've said this, that she should not be nominated for best supporting actor, best actor. She should be not actress, rather. She should be nominated for best supporting actress, if she was going to be nominated at all. But look, the fact that she got a lot of publicity, a lot of press, people had or other organizations had nominated her, I think that's a blessing on her to continue doing what she's doing, and that her time will come to get awards, to get nominated, because she's an incredibly gifted actress, a very good actress at such a young age. And I think there is, like, the world is open to her to create some amazing characters and deliver some amazing performances. And her getting, quote unquote, snubbed in this situation will be something she looks back on and laughs about after she's accumulated some awards throughout her career, because she will win awards. I mean, listen, you guys have watched movies long enough and watched performances long enough. You know when someone has the real possibility and potential to win multiple awards. Chase Infinity is one of those people. So take it on the chin on this one, Chase, but down the road, you will be getting nominated for a lot of things. So let that bring you comfort here. Actor in a supporting role, we've got Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another, Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein, Delroy Lindo for Sinners, One Battle After Another, or Sean Penn, rather, for One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value. All right, so I will take my victory lap over Snyder now. Sean Penn getting nominated. I knew he was going to get nominated. He thought that Benicio was going to get nominated, and not Sean Penn. This is the way both of them got nominated, which I think is maybe a negative, because maybe they'll cancel each other out. I don't know how that works. I'm going to vote, one or another. We'll see, but I like that they both got nominated, even though I'm surprised they both got nominated, because I thought the Academy would choose one over the other, but they didn't. So here we go. Jacob Elordi has been picking up steam, winning awards for his performances and performance in Frankenstein. I think it's great. It's the first thing I said when I walked out of the theater was, that guy needs to be. I think if you watch my out of theater reaction, I say that Jacob Elordi should get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So not surprised he got nominated here. Very happy he got nominated. And Stellan Skarsgård, he won the Golden Globe. We always knew, even though the Actor Awards, which is just a ridiculous thing, Netflix, fuck you for changing the SAG Awards to the Actor Awards. So stupid. I thought it was a crime that Sentimental Value got snubbed across the board. A lot of the foreign nominees got snubbed. I don't know what the fuck that's all about. That was pretty shameful from my organization to do that. But I'm happy he got his flowers here, and I was not surprised to see it. But Delroy Lindo is the conversation. I mean, a lot of people have been banging the drum beat, including Jeff, who, of course, isn't the biggest fan of Sinners, but other people banging the drum for Delroy Lindo. Well, it's here, and it's happened, and I think we should celebrate this. Do I think he's going to win? No, I don't think he's going to win. But the fact that you have One Battle After Another, both those actors, Benicio and Sean, possibly splitting the vote, it could mean that someone slides in there. I do think that Stellan Skarsgård is the odds-on favorite to win this one, in my personal opinion, but it could be Benicio because people really love his character. I think Sean Penn getting the nomination. I thought Sean Penn was a shoo-in to win, but now I feel like Sean Penn just getting the nomination is enough for him. I think people don't like that character, and they connect it too much with what's going out in the streets. When you look at ICE and you look at some of the stuff, some of the rhetoric from the people in charge of our country right now, it's not something people want to necessarily feel comfortable rewarding. I think in a safer time in our country, I think Sean would be much more of a consideration for nomination. But people have these emotions. They get into please don't think that people aren't human beings who let other things affect them, especially voters. So I think that's an element to consider when you look at his performance. Jacob Elordi, though, could pull the surprise here. We know in the supporting actors is where we'll find surprises, and I think Elordi has a real possibility of pulling the surprise and winning that thing. So I think it's very much a category. It's up in the air. I'm going to go I'm going to go with Stellan Skarsgård, but I wouldn't not be surprised if Jacob or Benicio wins this thing. And I think it's just awesome that Delroy got nominated. It's one of the best things to see overall here. All right, 200 of you guys, we'll take a moment to over 200 of you watching me live. Thank you so much for joining me live this morning as I break down some of the categories here that are and give my thoughts and feelings about it. Just a reminder, Streamlabs super chats are open. It's pinned in the chat. Please send in your love as we go along here on the show. I would really appreciate it. All right, let's move on to the next category here. Oh, did I give my thoughts on actress? Okay, I think Jesse's going to win this one. I guess I didn't give she's pretty much a shoo-in, Jesse. So I think there's no conversation to be had there. Now, actress in a supporting role. Let's move on to that. Elle Fanning for Sentimental Value. I think a lot of people are happy to see that. Inga Ipsdottir Ililios for Sentimental Value. Great to see that. Amy Madigan for Weapons. Wumi Masaku for Sinners. That's awesome. And Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another. So a nice combination of actresses here and a good comedy. You've got foreign actresses in Inga. You've got your veterans there with your up and coming veterans with Elle Fanning and your hardcore veterans in Amy Madigan for decades. Some of you remember from Field of Dreams and numerous other things, Pollock and other things like that. An amazing actress. Wumi Masaku, who's been coming on here, with TVA stuff and Deadpool and Wolverine, but also other stuff that she's been Loki and other things that she's been a part of. A lot of British stuff that she's been a part of that I've watched personally. So happy to see her getting nominated for Sinners. A lot of people wanted her to get nominated for that, and she did. And Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another, which I think is another fantastic nomination. I know Christian Harloff's not the biggest fan of her as an actress, but in the role, but I think her getting nominated for this role was great because, again, limited screen time, pretty much ruling the first part of the movie, and then later on with that phenomenal letter that she delivers and that voiceover performance, I think is really touching and moving in the film. So a good combination of actresses. I like this. It's very reflective of the Academy. It's a diverse combination, but not a diverse combination for diversity's sake. All 5 of them deserve to be nominated for this category. Now, when you look at Best Actress, that's an all-white category, even with an international actress. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I don't know if there were any actresses of color or any actresses that deliver performances that were on that level. So to me, I don't think that's an issue. That's the nominees. That makes sense to me. That's what I saw, But when you look at these 5, this is very reflective, and I like that it has diversity, not for diversity's sake, but because they are legitimately nominated because they delivered legitimately damn good work. The snubs here, you got to start with Ariana Grande. I took a lot of shit from the Ariana Grande stands when I posted that I didn't think she should be nominated or that I didn't think she was a best supporting actress, that she's a best actress, because the film in the second half of the film becomes her film. Now, when I just talked about best actress with it being an all-white category, Cynthia Erivo could have rivaled to be in that conversation if the film had been about her. And I know it's called Wicked, and if you're really limited in your thinking, you think that means that she's the lead of the film, but it's not. She's not. When you watch the movie, it is very much Glinda who goes on the arc. It's Glinda who we're watching strongly throughout the whole movie, and that, to me, made her a Best Actress nomination or nominee consideration in terms of Ariana Grande, but they tried to pitch her in Best Supporting because they thought, the publicists in the studio, this was a shoo-in. This is the easiest place to get her. Best Supporting Actress is always I don't know who got nominated. I don't know how they got nominated. I don't know how they won type of category. It's a very X Factor category. So I think the studio thought, well, we'll pitch her for this because this is an easier sell. Well, you got bit in the ass and you didn't get it. And I think it's also because the movie is not that great. And she delivered a good performance. I am not going to say Ariana didn't deliver a good performance. You could argue an Oscar nominee performance, but in the end, it wasn't enough because the movie wasn't that great. And I think that affected her chances. At the beginning of this whole cycle, I've gotten shit from Jeff and from Christian about it doesn't matter if the movie does well. When does it matter if the movie does well? Well, now we're seeing it. These are some of the reasons why these actors or these films did get nominated, because the movie isn't that well. Julia Roberts in After the Hunt delivers, in my opinion, one of the greatest performances of her career. I would argue it's on the level with her Erin Brockovich performance, arguably better, because she's an older actress. She brings a lot more levels to her work now. And I would argue that's an Oscar nomination performance. It's definitely one that should have been nominated, but it wasn't. Why? Because the film wasn't good and people didn't see it. That affects voters. If you think voters want to sit there and watch a film they don't like just to see if this person should be nominated, that's not how people work. We see this all the time, that people don't watch all the movies. And if they hear a movie isn't good and they go 5 minutes, 10 minutes into it and they're bored or they don't like it or think it's pretentious or insist upon itself, they're not going to watch it. And then you're not going to get nominated. That's how it works. I don't know why this is like a foreign concept to people sometimes. Human beings are human beings and they're going to do certain things, whether you like it or not, unfortunately. It's just the game, so to speak. So as for my predictions here, I think anything is possible. Honestly, I like Amy Madigan. I think Amy Madigan should absolutely win. I'm happy for Wunmi Masaku, but I don't think that's necessarily the winning number. I think it's between Tiana Taylor and Amy Madigan. Tiana Taylor, a lot of people liked her work. I know there have been pushbacks on her characterization of this woman. I personally don't have an issue with what Tiana did with that character in the movie. And Tiana is an outspoken woman, and I have a feeling that if she didn't like what was going down, she'd have no problem telling PTA where the fuck to get off, just as Benicio did when he came in to play his role. He had them change the script to make that section of the movie different, and that got him a nomination, and that gave the film more authenticity and respected the Latino culture. Didn't play us for jokes, which we've been played for numerous times in these important films. So I like that they listened to Benicio, and I imagine if Tiana had an issue with this character, who is a lost woman in a position of no power in her life, using her sex to dominate the men in her life, as she's also figuring out this rebellious nature. I think that it's an incredible performance, and I loved what she did in the movie, and I think she's absolutely the battle here. I think it's Amy versus Tiana. Now, I might be wrong. Could be Elle sliding in, could be Inga sliding in. I don't know, but I feel like it's Amy versus Tiana. I wouldn't be surprised if Tiana wins it. I want Amy to win it. That's my prediction, but I would not be surprised if Tiana slides in and wins this thing. So as far as animated feature, I think this is pretty much a given. Arco was nominated. Elio, I really love that Elio was nominated. I think people should give Elio a chance. If you haven't watched it, yes, is it kind of basic and is it not groundbreaking like they originally intended because Disney got scared with LGBTQ plus representation because they don't have balls anymore? That's fine. But I think it's still a sweet movie. And as a Latino kid, watching a young Latino kid dreaming about the stars and dreaming about going to places, I think it's a beautiful movie in that way. And I like what happens when he gets into space. So I think Elio deserves a rewatch, and I'm glad it got nominated. K-pop Demon Hunters, no surprise. Little Amelie, or the character of Rain, also no surprise. And Zootopia 2, not a surprise considering how much it did at the box office. And I do think the massive box office success of that movie forced the movie into this category. I think Zootopia 1 is a better movie than Zootopia 2. I didn't come out of Zootopia 2 going, oh, that should be nominated for Best Picture. I didn't. I thought it was a good film, but I didn't think it was a groundbreaking, amazing animated movie. I thought it was fun and good. But I think the fact that it's a massive box office success put it into people's minds. I bet a majority of the voters watched it and liked it and wanted to nominate it, and there it is. So whereas K-pop looked like a shoe-in, I think with Zootopia 2's success, this now puts the K-pop situation in a bit more doubt than I think people would have initially thought. So I don't think K-pop Demon Hunters is a shoe-in at this point. I think Zootopia 2 is going to be, might slide in. And I'm going to predict, I'm going to say Zootopia 2 is going to pull the upset here and beat K-pop Demon Hunters. I think there's going to be a lot of angry people when it happens, but I would not be surprised if Zootopia 2 slides in and wins this thing. But then again, K-pop could win it. So, I mean, I won't be surprised if Demon Hunters win it. But I think Zootopia could pull the surprise. So that's my prediction. That could be the surprise there. International feature, you have Brazil, The Secret Agent. France, It Was Just an Accident. Norway, Sentimental Value. Spain with Surat. And Tunisia, The Voice of Hind Rajab. Now, a big snub here for this is It Was Just an Accident. Jafar Panahi's social critique of authoritarianism did not get nominated here. And with the current political climate and what's going on in Iran, maybe the Academy didn't want to touch this thing. Maybe a lot of people watched it, didn't quite connect to it, and so it didn't get nominated. But I thought this was a real surprise. Also, Jafar not getting nominated for Best Director for this was also surprised because he won the Palme d'Or for It Was Just an Accident. And I've talked to some people who are not voters, but who are friends of mine, who are not even critics, but who enjoy film, who saw It Was Just an Accident and really loved it. I think it's a damn good movie. I think what it's got to say about authoritarianism is pretty smart, and the way it presents it, I think, is an enjoyable watch when you're watching this film. And you know me, I like to go all in, and I think the film goes all in with its attack of authoritarianism and the people who worship this kind of authoritarianism, which we see nowadays with a lot of bootlickers worshiping authoritarianism. So I'm really surprised that did not get nominated. But I also think the Academy, in some categories, has no problem rattling the cage. In other categories, they do have a problem with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why It Was Just an Accident was not nominated. But I think not Just an Accident. Where is it? For Best Picture. I'm surprised it didn't get nominated for Best Picture is what I'm trying to say, not for Best International Film. I like that it was nominated for Best International Film, but I thought it was going to be nominated for Best Picture, I guess. So put all my comments around Best Picture. That's what I meant, that it didn't get nominated for Best Picture, and he didn't get nominated for Best Director. So that was surprising to me overall, but it is nominated here, I think, where it belongs in an international feature. I think it is. I think it's between that. No, I think Sentimental Value is probably the odds-on favorite here. It's the safer of the choices, so I think it will win Sentimental Value. It Was Just an Accident could slide in. As I said, it's a damn good movie. People really enjoyed it. I could slide in to win Best International Feature, even though it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. And I think Secret Agent is good to get nominated. I don't think it has a chance to win. I think the film is slightly too long, and I think that affects the people's feelings about the movie. It doesn't affect their love of Wagner Moura's performance, obviously, but I think it affects their feelings about the movie. I haven't seen all the documentaries. Going to skip those, or the short films. I haven't seen those as well. So let's move on to adapted screenplay. Begonia from Will Tracy, Frankenstein from Guillermo del Toro, Hamlet from Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell, One Battle After Another from PTA, and Train Dreams from Clint Bentley and Craig Quaidar. Taking a break here. I think it's still one battle. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is going to win this one. Maybe Guillermo wins this one as a kind of like, okay, we didn't nominate him for Best Director, but maybe we'll give him for this, because Paul PTA might possibly get a lot of the big, might win Best Director, might win Best Picture. So maybe this is where Frankenstein wins, or Hamlet. And Hamlet, to me, I think this is a real possibility as well, because people are very moved by that last 30 minutes of the movie. And you know what happens. I don't want to spoil it, but you know what it is adapting in the last 30 minutes of the movie. And yes, the film itself is an adaptation of the book that Maggie O'Farrell wrote, but still, it is something to consider, that it's an adaptation of an adaptation of an adaptation in what you're seeing there on the screen. So I think Hamlet has a real shot as well to unseat One Battle After Another. It feels like One Battle After Another is going to win this thing, but I would not be surprised if Hamlet or Frankenstein slides in to take the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. Sometimes voters are like, well, I voted for this movie for all these other categories. I'm going to try to spread the wealth a little bit. I'm telling you, that's how voters think. The voters are not robots. They're not going to be like, well, I voted for this, so I must vote the same across the board. Like, it's just not that way. Voters are human beings. They're the ones they're the ones responsible for giving out the awards in this voting body, and they're going to spread the wealth sometimes. So I would not be surprised if Frankenstein or Hamlet takes it and One Battle After Another doesn't. I personally love Train Dreams. I'm very happy it got nominated. I think some of the dialogue in that film is incredible and moving and powerful. And I think in any other year, Train Dreams would have a bigger possibility at winning, but a Best Picture and possibly Edgerton getting nominated, or even Felicity Jones, who I think did a wonderful job in that movie, and the director as well. Another thing. All right, original screenplay: Blue Moon, Robert Kaplow. It Was Just an Accident, Jafar Pahani. Good to see it nominated here for Jafar. Marty Supreme, Josh Safdie, Ronald Bronstein. Sentimental Value, Joaquin Trier-Nesco, Vogt, and Sinners, Ryan Coogler. I think this is where you 100% look at the 16 nominations for Sinners and go, oh yeah, Ryan's winning this one. Definitely going to win the original screenplay. I think Sentimental Value or Marty could give it a run for its money, but I think Sinners in the end is absolutely going to win this thing, and hands down. Won't even be a question to see it get the victory there. I don't think there's much more to say on that. I think it's pretty, but I think this is another category, both adapted and original, where the Academy needs to look at expanding the amount of films that could get nominated. No one's going to die if you increase this to 8. And anyone who's complaining about it is just stuck in the past. You're stuck in the past. You're stuck. You're using. You're right. You're riding a horse. This is the future, and I think with more films in consideration, you have to expand these categories. Adapted screenplay, original screenplay. This is a place you need to increase. I think best supporting actor. And I think all the acting categories should be moved to at least 8. I think that's a very. It doesn't mean that 8 have to be nominated, but I think 8 should be in consideration. If 8 people get a certain above a certain number, then 8 slots are available to get used. I think that's the way it should go when you look at this thing. So yeah, I think it's Ryan's to win, no doubt. Original song, Dear Me, Diane Warren. Shout out to Diane Warren. Golden for K-pop Demon Hunters. I Lied to You from Sinners. Sweet Dreams of Joy from Viva Verde. Train Dreams from Train Dreams. Yeah, this is where K-pop's going to win, in my opinion. Golden will absolutely win this thing running away. I mean, Diane Warren, you never doubt the power of Diane Warren, but I think Golden absolutely has this one. No questions asked. Original score here, Begonia, Jurskin Fendrix, Frankenstein, Alexander Desplat, Hamnet, Max Richter, One Battle After, Johnny Greenwood, and Sinners, Ludwig Göransson. Göransson has been winning all across the board for his score, so I don't think anything's going to change here at the Academy. Again, especially because of the 16 nominations, I think that's pretty much going to put that in the number one slot, and it is going to win best score. I think the Frankenstein score is beautiful from Desplat. I do love the Johnny Greenwood score, even though TikTok loves to make fun of that score and the discordant tones in that score. I still think I know I'm not a score whore like Shannon and Mike over there at Geek Buddies, but I do have my opinions. I think the Begonia score is great, and I love the Hamnet score. I really love the Hamnet score. Like they sent me the album, and I quietly listened to it the other day and just was very moved by the score. That's the best way to listen to the scores is not to watch the movie. It's just to listen to the score after you've watched the movie and see what it evokes in you. Because if you watch the movie, like the score, like you can connect the cues and it affects how you. But if you listen to it clean without watching the movie, eyes closed, headphones on, and see where it takes you, I think that's the thing that kind of separates the great scores from the okay scores or the good scores, for sure. But I think Sinners is out. I think Göransson's going to win this one overall. But I think it's a very, very strong list of scores, all 5 of them. Some years you're like, oh, okay, I guess that score is fine. But all 5 of these, I think, are fantastic scores for different reasons. Is there anything? Hamnet for casting, rather casting category. Hamnet from Nina Gold. Marty Supreme, Jennifer Vendetti, One Battle After, Cassandra Kulukundis, Secret Agent Gabriel Dominguez, and Sinners, Francine Maisler. I think this is all pretty great. No surprises there on my side of things. Strong casts, strong assembly of actors, and a nice international flair mixed in with some of the more American stuff. You've got the Jewish side of things with Marty Supreme. You've got the black side of things with Sinners, One Battle After, and a much more diverse list of actors. Hamnet, very much a white film because of where it's set and the time where it's set, and Secret Agent, as I said, the international one. So I like this as a combo of casting choices. I'm surprised Sentimental Value didn't make the cut. I mean, there's a lot of great actors in that film. Maybe Secret Agent they felt was the film that of the international side of things that deserved the slot there. But I thought Sentimental Value would get a stronger consideration for best casting overall. And Begonia, you could argue Begonia as well, which I thought had a very strong cast. A lot of people thought Jesse had a shot. Certainly Emma got nominated. So I'm surprised Begonia didn't make that cut. But I don't know who I'd move out, honestly, from this whole crew of casts to move those 2 in there. So to me, I think this is a very strong category. What do I think wins here? I think One Battle wins here. Or, it's either One Battle or Sinners. Again, the 16 nominations puts everything in question now. So it looked like One Battle probably, but Sinners, because both have gotten nominations. Wumi Masaku, Delroy Lindo, Michael B. Jordan on the Sinners side, DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, and Tiana on the One Battle After Another side. So it's going to be an interesting battle to see which film wins that one. But I'm going to say One Battle, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sinners wins. That's what I'll say. Cinematography, Frankenstein, Dan Laustin, Marty Supreme, Darius Konji. One Battle After Another, Michael Bauman. Sinners, Autumn Durald, Arkapow, and Train Dreams, Adolfo Veloso. I'm so glad Train Dreams got nominated here. It is a beautiful film. I think it's a crime it wasn't released in the theaters for a run, because it is a gorgeous film. And I'm very happy for Adolfo that he got nominated for this, because honestly, one of the big reasons I enjoy that movie is the cinematography and the shots there of the world and and nature, and the way it evokes what the movie is trying to make you feel in certain moments. Incredible stuff there from Adolfo. No surprise for Sinners. I do think One Battle After Another is the winner here. It's such a well shot film. The cinematography, again, another element of the movie. Sinners, I think there's some really beautiful shots in Sinners. I think Autumn did a wonderful job for the cinematography, but I don't know necessarily that is the film that I walk out and go, whoa, the cinematography on this is amazing. I think One Battle and Train Dreams, I did more of that. Frankenstein, I think Dan did a great job of Frankenstein. Really good stuff there. With some of the scope of the film, the shot of them walking across the ice, him dragging him across the ice, the shot of them of Frankenstein in silhouette dragging that sled. Like, there are some really amazing shots in Frankenstein that are just gorgeous, both with the horror and the beauty of what's going on in that movie, and the stress and tension and the thrilling aspects of that movie, the way it's shot. Marty Supreme, Darius did a wonderful job. I love the film. I didn't walk out of Marty Supreme, though, going, ooh, the cinematography, should be a winner for best cinematography. I didn't feel that way, but I thought a lot of the shots really brought you into the world of the film, the tension of the film, bringing New York alive and bringing some of the international locations alive, and making you feel the tension throughout the whole movie. But I think it's Michael Bauman's to win. But again, wouldn't be surprised if Autumn slides in there and wins it for Sinners. But I do, or even Dan for Frankenstein could be a nice surprise there overall. I don't know much to say. Costume design, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Deborah, they got one nomination there. Frankenstein, Kate Hawley, Hamlet, Malgozio Trzanska, Marty Supreme, Miyako Belize, Sinners, Ruthie Carter. I think Ruthie Carter is an Academy favorite, so I think she has this thing in the bag. Could be Kate for Frankenstein. Could be Malgozia for Hamlet, but I think Ruthie Carter wins for Sinners. Costume design, I don't think of costumes for Avatar, Fire and Ash, because a lot of it is special effects. So the costumes they're wearing are special effects, so I don't know if I necessarily think that's where people's minds go to when they think of costume design. I think the Frankenstein costumes are amazing. The Hamlet costumes are great, but a little pared down, so I don't know if they're flashy enough to get people's attention for it. So I think Sinners and Frankenstein are the two, and I'm going to lean towards Sinners, but would not be surprised if Frankenstein makes it, or maybe Hamlet in an even bigger surprise for me. Visual effects, Avatar, Fire and Ash getting a second nomination there. Good job. F1, no surprise. Jurassic World Rebirth, hey, crappy film. They got a nomination. Great. The Lost Bus, good to see this for the fire effects in the film. I know Jeff was a big fan of Lost Bus, thought it should have gotten more love for Best Picture, maybe McConaughey for Best Actor. That didn't happen. So seeing it nominated here is fine. Sinners getting nominated for Best Visual Effects, I think, is no surprise. That all count. Okay. So no surprise there. I think F1 could win, but probably Avatar. Maybe there's Jurassic World Rebirth fans in the Academy that'll go and give it for that. But maybe Sinners. Maybe Sinners because of the 16 nominations. Although I didn't walk out of that film thinking about the visual effects of that movie. Maybe they do get the win here, but I think it's Avatar, Fire and Ash, to be honest with you. That's the way it feels to me when I look at the nominees here. But F1, people really loved F1, but I don't think the visual effects of F1 are necessarily where my mind goes on all of this. So yeah, and apparently no one did the visual effects for Jurassic World Rebirth because the Wrap didn't put them there. So all right, Wrap, do your thing, man. Do your thing. So there's all the nominees here. Let's go through real quickly before we wrap up the show and I answer your questions. And if you've sent in Streamlabs and Super Chats, I will get to them right after I'm done here. So send in your Streamlabs and Super Chats now. Let me take a look at some of these snubs and then see. I probably mentioned a few of them already, but in case I missed any, let's look at what the LA Times has as a snub here. Let's look. Wicked for Good, I already talked about that. No surprise. Yeah, the first Wicked earned 10 nominations. This one got nothing, absolutely nothing. So pretty surprising situation, but to get shut out, what incredible. F1 being nominated for Best Picture, I mentioned that's a great thing to see that happening. And the oldish guys who, the dad movies, men, steak eaters, men in the autumn of their years, as I was referencing, Avatar, Fire and Ash being snubbed. They call it a snub. I don't think it was a snub because it wasn't that good of a movie, so not surprised. It was just an accident. What I was mentioning for Best Picture, that was a bit of a snub for that film. Joachim Trier getting nominated for Best Director. Trier seemed to be slipping down the ranks of the contenders, but voters no doubt appreciated his films. Let me get this a little bit closer so you all can read along with me. His films, Salty View of Hollywood, as well as The Way, It's Subtly Shifting Between Past and Present. Trier also earned an original screenplay nomination for repeating the success he enjoyed with his last movie, The Worst Person in the World, that also starred Renato Rensby. Guillermo del Toro being snubbed for Best Director. I talked about that already. They mentioned that Scorsese and Fincher, George Lucas, and Jason Reitman all stumped for del Toro. Del Toro did snag a DGA nod, but in the end did not get a nomination for Best Director. But the film got 9 Oscar nominations. And Joachim Trier, I think, won the DGA for that. Jafar Panahi, as I mentioned, getting snubbed for Best Director there. Kate Hudson, Song Sung Blue, a really fun surprise there. Chase Infinity, a snub for one battle after another. Amanda Seyfried, that is a bit of a snub. A lot of people thought Testament of Anne Lee would be Seyfried's walk into the nominations. The fact that Housemaid is doing so well, that is not a Sydney Sweeney movie. That is a Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney movie. And Amanda Seyfried arguably is the one that everyone talks about in their reviews as being the reason why that movie works. We'll see with the sequel. Now, if Sydney's the reason that movie works, but a lot of people felt that she was the best actress of the two in that film and why the film is doing well. But Testament of Anne Lee here, pretty surprised that Amanda did not get nominated, but I didn't hear too many people talk about the movie. So I'm not surprised she didn't get nominated. It's not a snub necessarily to me. It's more like, yeah, I can see how some of the critics who've seen these films, the small pockets of critics who've seen these films, felt that she should have been nominated. It's a bit of a snub, but I didn't hear too many people talking about her performance to get nominated. Cynthia Erivo for Wicked for Good, bit of a snub, yes, but also because the song they gave her wasn't that great, and the way they kind of set her to the side in the second half of the movie did her no favors. And it was disappointing for me watching the movie, seeing that happen, because I thought she was incredible. I thought she was better than Ariana in the first Wicked movie. So I was hoping she would deliver an even more powerhouse performance in the second half of the film, when arguably she's going toe to toe with the wizard. That should have been the main story, and it wasn't as strongly laid out as it should have been, and I think that affected her nomination. Surprised Delroy Lindo? Yes, absolutely. Paul Mescal, I'm not really that surprised. I thought he delivered a good performance, but that's Jessie Buckley's film, man. You go see that film for Jessie Buckley. Yes, Paul has emotional moments. Paul has touching moments near the end about what happened with their son, all of that. But he disappears for large stretches of the movie, which is why he's the best supporting actor. But I don't think when he comes on screen that he is that impactful to get nominated for an Oscar. So to me, I'm not really that surprised by the snub. I thought he was incredible, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. The Ariana Grande, I already spoke about her snub. No surprise there. Even though she was damn good in the movie, I think the fact that the film itself wasn't that great affected the vote, affected people voting for her. Elle Fanning, being nominated, a nice surprise. But SAG-AFTRA voters ignored the cast of Sentimental Value for the actor awards, but the ensemble again, I'm going to say this again. It's a shame. All right, SAG-AFTRA should wear this as a shame. It's an albatross around their neck that my union snubbed pretty much all the international actors. That is very jingoistic, xenophobic, ethnocentric, whatever term you want to fucking use. I really hated it. And I think it's terrible. So I'm glad that they're getting their flowers here on the Academy side of things. Odessa Azion from Marty Supreme, 100%. I loved her in the movie. I'm not watching I Love LA because after 2 episodes, it's just too annoying. And I was getting PTSD from some of the people I knew when I lived in LA. And so to me, I think her performance in Marty Supreme is amazing. I think Odessa should have absolutely had a big consideration, and she did get nominated for an Actors Award nomination as well. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation. I don't know who I'd move out to move Odessa in. So let me repeat my thing. we should increase the number of nominations or the possibility to getting to 8 on the acting side of thing. Again, it doesn't mean you have to get to 8, but the possibility should be there that you could get to 8 if you needed to. Odessa, I think, deserved a nomination for sure, but I don't think I'd move anybody out to move Odessa in for her performance. No other choice getting snubbed for international feature. Yeah, that is a bit of a surprise here. I think there's a lot of people feel that No Other Choice is a bit too long and a bit repetitive at times and drags. So I think in the end, that's what affected the movie. It is it is definitely a film I recommend people watch. I liked the movie, but I do think that it wasn't quite, as good as what we've seen from Park before. And so I think that ended up kind of affecting the situation overall for him. So, okay, those are the snubs from their side of things. Are there any other snubs that I want to highlight? Let's look at the EW list real quick, and then I'll get to your questions in just a second. Let's look at the EW list and see if there's any new snubs or surprises. Let me go in. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Wicked for Good snub. No surprise. Elle Fanning, Paul Mescal, Del Lindo, Chase Infinity, F1. Best documentary short, Cashing Out, produced by RuPaul's Drag Race winner and Jerry Paris. So I don't know this. Okay, I can't speak on this because I haven't seen it. It was produced by Matt Bomber as well. Legend voices. Is it about her? Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. Snub Miley Cyrus. I'm never going to tell you that Miley Cyrus not getting a nomination is a snub for anything. Less said there, the better. Snub Jesse Plemons. I did mention a lot of people felt Jesse Plemons could have been nominated for Begonia, but in the end did not get nominated for did not get a best actor nomination for Jesse. But Jesse delivers great work in that. So and Joel Edgerton were the leads of the two best picture nominees who missed out again. But Jesse and Joel should absolutely, if you expand the category, would have been in the category for best actor. So I think that's the situation there. We have to start expanding these categories. Odessa Azion for best supporting comedy. And yeah, best costumes, Avatar, Fire and Ash. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. What are you talking about? It is special effects. I don't know. Me personally, I don't see that as costumes, but that's my overall feeling. All right. Those are the snubs that I wanted to make sure we highlighted. Let's take a look at some of you all's comments here. Thank you to everybody who sent in Streamlabs and Super Chats. Sean Brennan, of course. Thank you, Sean. Oh, yeah. And I hope I answered your question. What do you think is Chance Star to win? I think not that good. I think the nomination was enough. But, with best supporting, you never fucking know. Best supporting actor or actress, you never fucking know. So who knows? Especially with Sean and Benicio possibly splitting the vote. Brady says, don't care about the Oscars, here to show support. Okay, thank you, Brady. I appreciate that. Antoine Barnes, 5289 says, what's up, Outlaw? What's up, Antoine? Love the channel. Thank you. Thank you, man. I'm surprised no supporting actress nods from Marty Supreme. Yes, instead we get 2 actresses from Sentimental Value. Well, Antoine, if you've seen Sentimental Value, that's pretty much an Oscar kind of movie. And so I'm not, especially for an international feature, and especially because it's about Hollywood, and there's nothing Hollywood loves more than kissing its own ass and kissing films that kiss its own ass, even though it might be taking it down a peg or two. It's still talking about Hollywood. And so people like that because there's no, how can I say this? There's no better example of self-delusion than people in Hollywood who think other people in Hollywood are the self-involved ones or are the arrogant ones, right? Because they're pretty self-involved. They're arrogant. They just don't see it. So I think when you live in that city, you see how people are mad at other people being self-involved and arrogant when they're the ones that are self-involved and arrogant with egos. It's really a mind-blowing thing when you live there. So I think people who are watching Sentimental Value like that it takes down Hollywood because they think it's taking down those people in Hollywood. In fact, it's probably taking down them too, but they don't see it. So I think that's one of the reasons why Sentimental Value got in there as well. And people like that movie. And I think Joaquin Cheer is a favorite of the Academy. So no surprise again. But I hear you. Odessa could have gone in there. I don't know who you move out. Maybe Elle, but Elle is such a good actress. I don't know that I would move out Elle because I think Inga deserves her nomination. But, I don't think we'd move Elle out, to be honest with you, for Odessa. But I hear you. But again, Antoine, expanding the category, Odessa gets in there if they expand the category. Nicole Mac 91. What's up, Nicole? I am so happy for Sinners. Yeah, as someone who grew up in Memphis, kudos to Ryan for highlighting our culture. Yeah, absolutely, Nicole. I agree. What a phenomenal film. It holds up to multiple rewatches. Really surprised Jack O'Connell did not get a nomination. How come no one's talking about Jack O'Connell being snubbed? And I'm just bringing it up now, so I'm guilty of it too. Jack O'Connell was amazing as the villain in Sinners. If you get 16 nominations, why isn't he nominated for Best Supporting Actor? He is so good in that movie. But I mean, I wouldn't throw Delroy Lindo out for Jack O'Connell. So I think maybe that was the decision there between the two, and they went with Delroy. But Jack O'Connell was amazing. But I mean, to be fair, Jack wasn't campaigning. I didn't see a lot of people campaigning for Jack. So maybe this wasn't something that was necessarily in consideration. Maybe they read the tea leaves and felt that Jack wasn't going to get nominated. But he's incredible in that movie. So I'm really surprised. But I agree with you. 16 nominations for Sinners. It's going to cause a lot of controversy and drama. A black movie getting 60, being the number one film to get the most nominations ever. We're going to hear the drama all over the place. So it is what it is. But yes, very happy for Ryan. And I hope this opens the door to Ryan looking at, hey, man, I can make these kinds of films. And I hope other directors, black, people of color, what have you, are looking at Ryan's success going, it is possible. It is possible. I hope Spike Lee gives Ryan a massive hug. And I hope Ryan gives Spike a hug as well to be like, you paved the way for us to be able to achieve these things, and I think that's a phenomenal thing to consider. Rabbit of Kyra Bonog 13 says, I wish Weapons got more noms. Definitely my biggest surprise of last year. Really loved Weapons. Yeah, I know. I think the ending is what keeps Weapons from being nominated, although I think it could have got nomination for Best Picture. But I think what Weapons suffers from, although I loved the ending, I think it splits the fandom of the film, and people hated the ending or people loved the ending because everything leading up to that ending was fucking amazing. But that ending is such a swing for the fences that I think that affected the movie. Now you look at The Substance, that ending was also a bit divisive for a lot of people. But I think the film had done enough by the time you got to those final 5-10 minutes of the movie that it got its nomination. But in this situation, I think the ending affected the movie overall. But a damn good movie. I agree. Should have been in consideration for more things. So thank you, Rabbit. Fantastic. If there was a prettiest movie award, then Fire and Ash and Wicked for Good would have been nominated, but not Best Picture. Well, there is a prettiest movie award. It's called Cinematography. And I don't think either one was nominated for that. So yeah, in the end, there you go. Special effects is what Fire and Ash gets nominated for. I'm really surprised Wicked for Good didn't even get a costume nomination. I bet the people who worked on those costumes are utterly shocked this morning that they didn't at least get a costume nomination. And when you look at Avatar getting a costume nomination or a costume design nomination, you're really like, that's where Wicked for Good should have gotten consideration for costume there as well for a nomination. Julius Wyatt, 8895. Finally, Delroy, a nominee. No other choice snubbed. Yeah, no other choice. A little bit snubbed. I'm not too surprised by it. I think there are just better nominations, international nominations. I don't think this was his strongest film. As I said, a bit long, but I think that's what ended up costing the film in the end. It's not as moving as people were hoping it was going to be because there was all this hype initially for it, but didn't quite get there. Sean back in. Thank you, Sean. What are your thoughts on Wake Up Dead Man being completely snubbed? I thought Glenn Close would at least get a nomination. Yeah, I think that's another snub that people aren't mentioning. Glenn Close I rewatched that movie again last week. Just had it on while I was messing around doing stuff there in the living room. I like the movie. I like the movie. Do I think it deserved Best Picture? No. Do I think Glenn Close deserved a nom? I think in a less strong year, maybe. She's good in the movie, don't get me wrong, but I think she disappears for long stretches, and the disappearing for long stretches and other actors sliding in kind of takes away from the power of her performance in the movie and maybe affected her getting a nomination. Plus, I don't think a lot of people liked or watched. I think a lot of people didn't watch Wake Up Dead Man. And I don't think you can ignore that it's a Netflix movie. Train Dreams certainly got some nominations because Train Dreams is like this real important film that feels very much like a theatrical movie, right? Wake Up Dead Man feels like a streaming film when you're watching it. Doesn't feel like a theatrical film. And I think that affected it overall. I think it's also why Ryan wasn't nominated. It just doesn't feel like a theatrical film. It feels like a streaming film. And I think that might have affected nominations for Glenn Close. And I think the Academy, any chance they get to take a shot at Netflix, even with the newfound desire to adhere to Windows, are going to take their shot. And I think they did in the end, Reggie Brown says, I'm just going to love the butthurt people for all the sinners. I'm just going to love the butthurt people for all the sinners nominations. Yeah, I agree, Reggie. We're going to hear all this stuff. I can imagine all the anti-woke film critics are like salivating at the Academy. They're doing this because they want to feel important and socially important about racism, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to denigrate the movie. Most of them can't even direct their own YouTube shows, but they're going to denigrate Ryan Coogler in the amazing way that he directed his film. So, you're going to see it. Of course, Reggie, that's the way it goes. Whenever black people achieve anything, it always comes with you only got it because you're black, or you only got it because of affirmative action, or, you only got it because of white guilt. There's never, hardly ever are black people given the consideration they should be given for the things that they win and the things that they achieve in this world. And it is what happened. And sadly, it's what happens when you have a super white majority in any country or in any situation. It's always looked down upon. And certainly we saw the recent administration weaponize that during the elections to get themselves into power. We're seeing them shit the bed now like a bunch of morons, but they use that to get into power. And now they're doing their own quote unquote affirmative action, a quote unquote DEI with Bari Weiss and other people there who are completely unqualified, Hegseth, all of those for their positions. But that's how it goes. And unfortunately, that's the way it's going down right now. But yes, no surprise, Reggie, we are absolutely going to see a lot of butthurt people who are going to make content complaining about how the Academy has gone woke, or they gave in to pressure to look like us and pretty much denigrate the quality of Sinners. So whatever. It's sadly the truth. Eric Kirby, what's up, Eric? Good to see you, brother. I wonder what type of racist remarks Jeff is going to say about Sinners getting so many nods. He'll probably say that that's good for a black film, like when white people tell black people, you speak so well. I do want to say this. Jeff is not a racist. I've had many conversations with Jeff. I hope you guys think I would not work with a racist. It's just not my thing. If I wanted to do that, I'd be on other YouTube channels, and you know which ones I mean. I would not work with him. And so I don't think he's a racist. I just think Jeff has this idea about Sinners being elevated because it's a black movie and not necessarily because of its quality. But it's only because Jeff doesn't like the movie, just doesn't think the movie's that great. And he's entitled to his opinion. And he's not alone. There are critics that you and I read. Look, Sinners didn't make, Rolling Stones top. Was it? No. Yeah, I think it was. What? No. Variety's top 10 for either of those two white critics. There's been this campaign against Sinners from other white. So to me, the Academy giving it 16 nominations is a massive fuck you to these people who didn't put it on their lists. And I do think you can question any Penske media publication. I'm on record on that. I said it on the show on Hot Mic, and I believe it, that Jay may have made it clear to them to not put a film, Sinners, on their lists or whatever. That I'm not surprised by. Where is Clayton's list? Does Clayton get to do a list? I would love to see Clayton's list. And so to me, I'm not surprised to see that happening at any Penske media publication. In the end, though, I think the Academy likes the movie. And you're going to tell me that 10,000, enough of 10,000 people were like, well, we need to do this because it's socially conscious, the right thing to do. Bullshit. I think it absolutely deserves its nominations. And the people who have issues with it are going to concoct whatever conspiracy theory they want in their heads. Let them do it. They can't change the truth. And the truth is it got nominated for 16 nominations. And the reason I'm doing this show is because Jeff texted me last night that he felt people were going to be talked out by 4 p.m. on the Oscars. So I'm doing my show here live so you guys get my full unadulterated thoughts, because I'm not going to probably be able to do too much of this with Jeff when we do the show at 4 p.m. PT. We will talk about the nominations, but I'm sure because he's protecting his baby FYC that we're not going to be able to get into deeper conversations about these nominations. So you're getting it now with me here on my show right now. All right, let's see if there's any Streamlabs that came through. Yes, we had a couple of them, or a few of them here. Samo says, thoughts on the new Variety article criticizing Timmy using black culture, and do you think this will hurt his Oscars chances? Nah, I don't think anyone's reading Variety to hear their thoughts about Timmy using. I didn't even see this thing. Hold on, let me find it real quick. And I know I'm trying to wrap up here because I got to do trailer reactions to this whole situation. I didn't. I don't. Sinners. It's not even on the front page here, is it? Timothy Chalamet makes Oscar the March Supreme's youngest man with 3 acting noms. Yeah, Clayton wrote about Timothy Chalamet, saying that he is the youngest actor to get 3 acting nominations, 3 Best Actor nominations. He is the latest. No, I don't know what article you're referring to, bro. Is because it's not here on the front page. So I'm going to say to you, no, I don't think there's any kind of. If it's not even on the front page and I don't see anybody talking about it, then I don't know that it's going to have any effect on his nomination. And remember, most of the voters are white, and I don't think they're going to have an issue with Timmy supposedly co-opting black culture with his rapping and stuff like that. I actually don't see it that way, but people can see it how they choose to see it. I'm not black, so I'm not going to comment on any black person feeling that he's doing that. So I don't see it personally. Fantastic. KJ Rocha, 60 nominations is great. I don't think it's the best picture of the year, but I'm loving the recognition it's getting. F1 getting nominated is a surprise, but a happy one. I agree, Fred, on all your points. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but again, I think it's given it a much stronger possibility than it had before the nominations were announced. And I do love the recognition as well. And I love that F1 got nominated as well. So great stuff to see that there. Kier says, I'm happy to catch you live. Love the channel. Thank you. Agree with you 90% of the time. I'm glad. Well, thank you, Kier. I'm glad Sinners got 16 nominations. Seen Hamnet on your recommendation. Thought it was good. Not great. Yeah, Hamnet's an interesting thing. For me personally, I love Shakespeare. I love British stuff. So it spoke volumes to me. I've lost a person in my family with my father dying in 2008. So there was a lot that worked for me there. I'm curious to see how old you are, Kier. Maybe you can maybe you revisit Hamnet later in life when you've experienced some stuff, and maybe the film speaks to you in a different way then. So I don't know if the film would have spoke to me as powerfully if I was a 20-year-old or in my 20s, but it spoke to me now later in life. So, but that being said, that just may be your opinion on the film, and that's totally fine. I think Jeff also thought it was good, not great. But Christian and I side on the side that we loved it. My brothers and the Geek Buddies loved it as well. And so, it's all, obviously these films are always subjective. So good, not great, totally fine. I'm glad you watched it on my recommendation, though. Do you think Paul should have been nominated? I'm sure you think Jesse should have been nominated, but Paul should have been nominated. Do you agree with the snub, quote unquote snub? Samuel says, do you think Weapons got snubbed for Best Picture because they were 2 horror movies that got nominated for Best Pictures? I think Weapons should have gotten the spot over F1, which I enjoy, but I think they wanted a blockbuster film to get ratings. Yeah, Samuel, there's the thing where you go like, there's these narratives that pop up. Like, do you think the collective, like 10,000 people were like, we must nominate a blockbuster film? No, I think there's enough of the Academy that likes these kinds of movies, and we should have variety in our nominations. And F1 represents a section of the film-going public that enjoys these movies and that are connoisseurs of movies. I loved F1. I thought it was good. Do I think it's as good as Top Gun Maverick? No, but I thought it was a good movie, and I don't have a problem with it being nominated because I think it's pretty spectacular for what it does. I recently spoke to a friend of mine who works for the SAG ceremony. She's a pretty big part of the SAG ceremony. She texted me and told me how much she loved F1, that she was crying by the end of the movie because she loved it so much. So, and she's a pretty good connoisseur of movies. I trust her taste on a lot of films. So I think the thing is that it did actually get us nominated. I think Weapons, again, that ending is so controversial. I think enough people saw that movie and didn't like that ending, and it affected it getting nominated for Best Picture. I don't think there's a collective groupthink that are like, we must nominate a blockbuster to get ratings. I don't think Academy members give a fuck about ratings. I really don't. I think they care about movies, and they want to vote for the movies that they legitimately feel should be nominated for these categories. If that was the case, Avatar Fire and Ash, which made way more money than F1, would have been nominated. So I just think that's the situation when you look at that. I think Weapons I don't think it was about horror. I think that ending messed people up. Didn't hit the landings, to stick the landing as much as people wanted to, and that affected its nomination overall. So, all right, do we have one more? Oh, yeah. Brady came back in. Some more support, and also can't wait to see you and Jeff discuss the Sinners nominations. LOL. When's the next Hot Mic, John? Tonight at 4 p.m. PT Live. Join me and Jeff Snyder for the Hot Mic. We will absolutely be going talking about the Oscars. We probably won't have a 45-minute discussion on it, but it'll be a healthy discussion on it for sure. So come and join us for that conversation. And yes, I'm sure we'll be talking about Sinners and Jeff's feelings about it. So we'll see if he underplays it, or we'll see if he sticks to his guns and digs his feet in. So we will see. So all right, let's see. Okay, that's everything. I think that's all the Streamlabs and Super Chats. That's my thoughts on the nominations. Thanks, you guys, for joining me for this impromptu live show. I just kind of woke up at 7:30, looked at the nominations, and was in the mood to talk about it, so I jumped on here to talk about it. I appreciate you all. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. You know, we're tiny, but we're mighty. You cross that 40,000 mark. Really want to get to 50,000 here in 2026. Gonna do what I can to do that. So please subscribe down below and hit that bell button. I really would appreciate it. I will be dropping my trailer reactions for the He-Man movie and for the Mall trailer that are both out. Those are probably, one of them is going to be out probably by 10:30, probably 10:30 because I got to make some breakfast. And then Mall will be out after that sometime in the afternoon, maybe at 1. And then, of course, a live Hot Mic at 4 o'clock. And maybe we'll have a Geek Buddies tomorrow. We might do a happy hour live tomorrow. We've been thinking about doing one happy hour live Geek Buddies every month. Maybe we'll start the tradition tomorrow. I'll let you all know about that. But please remember to subscribe to the channel and also follow me on social media there at The Rocha Says on all social media platforms. And if you want to join my Patreon, that's patreon.com/John Rocha Says. And also, or John Rocha actually. And also, YouTube memberships. I'm going to be launching those in February. So if you want to DM me suggestions on my Instagram or on my Twitter, please feel free to do so. I will take a look at those because I'm looking at suggestions for memberships to do there to increase people subscribing and following me on there with all the access I have to movies and TV shows. I just finished the second season of The Night Manager last night. I got sent those episodes early. We finished them off last night. Incredible season. That ending, if you're not watching The Night Manager season 2, highly recommended. That ending is going to get tongues wagging because of it is pretty shocking. Pretty shocking ending for second season of The Night Manager. If you're not watching that on Prime Video, highly recommend you all watching it. Tom Hiddleston, an incredible job there in that show, and Diego Calva, who was great in Babylon. He is the second lead of that show, and so I highly recommend you all watching it. Great ending. The next week, I think, is the last episode. So highly recommend you all watch. But anyway, those are the kinds of things you'll get on YouTube memberships. I'll do early reviews for stuff I've seen, and that'll be under a private window. So it's not me putting it out in public, so I can adhere to the review windows, embargo windows, and what have you. So, all right, that's it. That's it for me. You guys are amazing. Thanks so much for joining me. Love you madly. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of The Truth here on the John Rocha channel. Peace. Have a blessed day, everybody.